We're good to go? Yes, sir. All right. So I'm here with Tommie Smith. I don't even really know who I'm talking about when I say I'm here, because this is just people getting to film me talking to people that have been significant in some way, in my life. My quick spiel is 10th grade, social science, Miss Baraki, world history, but she injected in these children that went to Atlanta public schools, where 80% of the schools are named for African-American educators and emancipators. She said simply, going to Frederick Douglass is not enough. You're gonna leave here knowing you're African, knowing you're Black, proud of it, right? So we got to the point where we talked about, of course, the '68 Olympics. We talk about you. That picture remains in our classroom for most of the semester. You look like a fierce Zulu-esque warrior. Like we walk around with our little chest pointed out. You'd have thought we ran a track meet. And it's mostly because of that powerful image. And with images come mythology. So mythology is good for holding social order. It's good for holding people together. I've learned, this country has the myth of overcoming Britain and becoming a grand, glorious empire, blood-free. But the mythology of Black kids, a lot of times, because you're being assaulted by the system, is to build heroes, even out of normal people, but just for the Black stuff. So you were our warrior. You were Malcolm in uniform. You and John Carlos were Martin in uniform there. That white guy didn't want y'all there. That white man must have hated y'all. And I can remember, as I did my research, and I can remember all of you guys had a circle, like badge here.
Yeah.
But that particular badge was not just about Black people's freedom and civil rights in the United States. And that fist was not just for Black people in the United States. It also, the fist was in solidarity with people in South Africa, which apartheid was being pushed to end there. That was 20 years prior to it actually ending. And it also was for what was Rhodesia at the time, which was one of the most fierce colonializers in the world. What was happening there. You guys were in solidarity with Africans around the world. You guys had beads. You guys walked up barefooted to show solidarity with poor people, not in color, but in class. So what did the badge mean that the white guy also wore too? And all of you guys were united.
Mike, the badge did represent a significant platform in what John Carlos Tommie Smith did. It was the badge Olympic Project for Human Rights.
Gotcha.
And they were synonymous to what we believed in, which is a unification of strength. It could be different color strength, as long as we're going proactively in the same direction.
You there, Juan is there. I mentioned there was a white guy there.
Yeah.
We had always assumed just that the white guy didn't want to be there. You guys are united in this Olympic project.
Yeah, for human rights.
For human rights. Yeah. And this man was Edward Norman, right?
Yeah, Peter.
Peter Norman, I'm sorry.
Peter, yeah.
And he was in Australia.
He's from Australia.
And just like you guys came home, and y'all got beat up about.
We got beat up before we left home, and when we came back, they cut it open, did it again.
He went to Australia, and he got beat up for doing the
button.
Exactly.
You see, he deserved to be on that victory stand because he was second place. So that wasn't the issue. The issue was him wearing that button in agreement of human rights issues.
Absolutely.
Because human rights worldwide, no matter where you are.
All right, so you mentioned you're raised of real and true grit. Your parents are either just born right out of slavery or right at the edge potentially in terms of they had to have been around the early 1900s.
Yeah. Dad was 1912.
Okay.
Mother, 1912.
Gotcha.
And where we were raised, it was mimicking slavery because it was in the backwoods of Clarksville, Texas. I didn't see people. For sure. And they got more to share. Yeah. We did more to work. Yeah, I remember walking around the sorghum mill with the mule, squeezing the sorghum in the center for the sorghum to come out and bear, all that stuff. I did, but Daddy goes further back than actually his age because of where he's from and his parents are from and what he did. He said he had a second grade education, but I think that he's given him at least 2 years, too much, But he had that, Mike, he had that sensual, do as I say, boy, because this is what's going to happen if you don't. Yeah. And he did it from wisdom because he could read. Yeah. You see, my mother had maybe 11th grade education,
Yeah.
A Blackfoot, Oklahoman Indian. So she had us boys, and boys loved their mama. I was a mama's child. Boy, you look at my mama wrong, I'd go get me a piece of a croaker sack someplace and tie you up in it. But we had this. She stayed home most of the time and took care of the kids. Sometimes she took the kids to the cotton patch and put them on that sack as she dragged the sack down the road picking cotton. See, you hear how fluently I can reveal this verbally because that's part of my fiber. That's my life.
Absolutely.
And Daddy would take pick two rows, and Mother would pick one. And I formulated myself after Daddy. I take 2 rows, and I ended up beating him later on down the line, picking 300 pounds a day. That's a pretty good cotton.
I thought 100 pounds was something.
Yeah. Yeah. See, there's 12 of us. Actually, I was 14 children. 2 died.
Yeah. So you were competing. But with 14 children, with 12 survived.
Yeah.
With 14 children, you literally have been competing your entire life.
7 sisters, so I was really competing all my life.
Losing odds with that.
Oh, I lost a whole lot of odds.
I had 5 sisters. I lost more fights than I won.
So we know. So I was competing. So when I got to the athletic side of competing, to me in 5th, 6th, 7th, it wasn't competition. It was just beat anybody you saw. But I learned to love the sight of gold. Okay. Judge ye not, for ye shall be judged. I like gold because it's what
looks good on
money.
you too.
Oh, this is just the old Olympic ring and Hall of Fame. They ain't nothing.
You shining like baby, swag. I like that. Look. I should have did it, but look, you earned that. That's different from going to the jury about going to Lucky and buy a ring because you're a rapper. Those are earned, and that's much different. And it sounds like to me you were saying from being a part in the Olympic Human Rights Project that you had prepared to make a grand statement. You and the other athletes.
Even then, before then, the preparation of my moving through life, I was pushing straight academics.
Yes, sir.
I barely talked, believe it or not. Coming up, barely said a word. Some days I wouldn't say no words at all because I was ashamed of how I sounded because of where I was from and the educational background of parental influence.
Sound like country folk.
Yeah, what you talking about, boy?
Yeah,
let me tell you. And so I did. So I was quiet.
Yes, sir.
But I didn't lose the energy to learn. My problem was sitting in the back of the classroom because nobody told me I could sit up front.
Gotcha.
But once I found out in the 4th grade, that sitting up front was another education because you heard more than you heard in the back row.
Yes, sir.
And when I started doing that and learned how to read in the 5th grade, I know I'm talking, a lot of unknowing knowledge to a lot of folks.
They need
and
to
then
hear
I'm
it.
talking, because Tommie Smith can just up and run 19.83 and 200 meters by just thinking. This hardcore back work doing it.
Absolutely.
And that work after a while became easy to do because I had done it all my life. And when I found out that doing what I believed in, which is treating everybody from an equal standpoint, I became a better person because I wasn't afraid to put myself there with you.
Yes, sir.
And on that victory stand, I took people with me because that wasn't me on the victory stand, that was everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I took everybody with me, so everybody had a part of the victory stand.
Yes, sir.
When you see Tommie Smith up there, you are a part of that because what it represents is your thought of freedom.
Athletes, thank you for that. Thank you. I have waited my entire life to hear that from someone like you. How hard was it to endure the redemptive suffering?
That was my redemptive suffering portion did pay off because what we did it through spiritual love.
Yes, sir.
And not that spiritual hate.
I don't know if I would have chosen to take that stand. I don't know if I would have chosen to, and again, you were absolutely brilliant in image, all 3 of you. I don't know if I would have done it. I don't know if I would have taken all those years to organize while I was still an athlete. Athletes, especially black boys, are shunned a lot, to told not to have an opinion on too much because like a rapper or an entertainer, you're fortunate in that you can get out. Your hard work has allowed you a ticket out of these things to say stuff. And I've noticed post the 60s and 70s with the Kareem even, that what I've seen in athletics is a quieting because I think that people are quiet. People often point to the athletes, why aren't you saying anything? People often point to the rapper, why aren't you saying anything? But it seems like society has gotten quiet. People have gotten quieter. Is it still happening like it should? It couldn't.
Yeah, well,
By the people, not the athletes,
working together,
the people.
Working together, we can make a change regardless of who it is. But it's that togetherness is vitally important. Athletics brings people together.
Yes, sir.
But oftentimes, those people who brought together don't work together systematically. They make their money and they do their separate thing. Yes, we are coming together because of the issues dealing with moving information around is much faster than it was when I was competing. Yeah. You know, Mexico City became a worldwide issue because it was the first time that the Olympic Games were shown live.
Gosh.
Before then, any country could shut off what they didn't want to hear. But because of it being live, you saw what was done at any particular time. No, South Africa did not compete. No, Rhodesia did not compete. And other things happened. It cleaned up the site of competitions because it brought out the negatives in the same competition. I understand that. En route to Mexico City, the black athletes met for the last time in oh my goodness gracious, Mile High City. Where is it? Denver, Colorado. That's Colorado. Where we got a uniform fitting. And we decided then that no, there will not be a boycott. But each athlete will represent himself according to how he felt the country represented him. That's why you see a lot of athletes didn't do anything. And here's Tommie Smith and John Carlos epitomizing a need to perform not only on the track, but also politically on the stand. Now, what did we get for doing that? We were told athletics and politics doesn't mix. You can't mix the both. Why did you use the Olympic game to tell a story? Because the Olympic game is a story. You do tell the history of people through competition there because it's worldwide. It was the Olympic project for human rights and not civil rights. Civil is country. So when we got back to the United States, it became civil. But we had already told the world that you need more love. Love is a key to existence. Why can't you love your neighbor as yourself?
Not to interrupt, but I just keep having just this epiphany is this is about human beings. He did this for all of humanity. This was not just for me. This was not just for my or our people. And he did this for greater humanity in the name of love. That is an admirable, admirable thing indeed. That is a well thought out purpose plan. That is comparable to what we see with Black Lives Matter today in terms of young people being willing to organize on the behalf of other people. It's comparable to what we see in the Wall Street sit-ins when the Occupies. What would you like to see? Not even what would you like to see. Eventually, these two crowds are going to get together. Eventually, they're going to realize we're being scammed and being separated apart. Like, oh, you did here, you. Eventually, going to realize everybody is essentially the same oppressor of some sorts. Athletics have usually picked from the poor, the working, or the commoner. And these kids have been used by nations to exalt their glory, to show their genetic and physical prominence. In matters of thought in terms of the athletics, in order to show we have a superior mental athlete. We had a country that gladly put our black athletes on display to bring home gold for the glorification of the country, but did not want to honor them by having their basic human and constitutional rights honored. Do you see athletes as not a class that's different or amongst, but do you see them as being an effective tool in organizing? And in your 71 years young being here, if the people so will change, if Occupy finally gets with Black Lives Matter and they do the right thing and mash together, if the Tea Party will start realizing, and libertarians, if you let go of that subtle racism, you'll probably have a lot more black guys that agree with you and willing to join you.
Letting go for a lot of people is like catching a whale, catching $1 million whale.
Yes, sir.
And throwing the money back in. That's what how a lot of people see working to make a change.
Yes, sir.
Status quo for some people is the way to go.
Yes, sir.
So that's what we are fighting is the optimal way to get to society at its highest point is togetherness.
Yes, sir.
And we don't have to be talking about the issue using the same words, but on the same on the same platform going horizontal.
Yes, sir.
Dr. King and Malcolm X was talking the same principle of freedom, but they used different acts to get there.
Yes, sir.
And they both were killed because of getting to some place differently.
And they were both killed when they started talking about human rights.
So we know how
Yeah.
close John Carlos and Tommie Smith became.
That's what I'm saying. You weren't scared to die.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, silver and gold have I not, but such as I have give I thee. I only have a life to give.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, I was not afraid to do what I did because I knew my life would be taken care of, dead or alive. I mean, that was my upbringing.
I'm very proud of the kids that are out protesting now. Whether I agree with some of their causes or not, because I understand that much like you at that very young age, they're getting told, you're too young, you don't understand, stop disobeying the status quo, wait your turn. But if they ever get the grander thing, not they, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. If we as younger people than you get the grander thing that you guys understood, that as human beings, that these systems are set up. And these systems, they pick your best minds and send them to college. They pick your best athletes, send them to college. They leave the rest of you there. They tell you to admire these people here. Are you proud of them?
And
are you supportive of them?
Mike, they're there. They are there.
Solidarity?
Yeah, they are there. And it's amazing being 40 years old, you see that. You can see that.
Yes, sir.
It is there. It's like a fixture underneath a huge rock. And they're so small. But the continuation of those who have been there under those rocks and has crawled out and can see and speaking about the terrain down there and bringing people out so they can be prominent. These things are happening.
Yes, sir.
They're happening. So we have to be legions in the effort to continue going. Let me say this. The professional athletes, especially the multi-million-dollar athletes.
The marquee guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I do believe that trying times are over. And some of those people have gone beyond and doing. Now it's us who are blaming these people that they're not doing something, don't know the fact that they are doing something.
Yes, sir.
They are working. Let's give them the respect to understand that they are doing what they think is enough. You said it a few moments ago, it might not be enough.
Yes, sir.
But as long as we give them,
yes, sir.
As long as we let them know that the system appreciates the help that they're giving.
But see, the same system that pushes the commoner down, whether it's a slave, meaning a European, or slaved or an enslaved African, that keeps you at the bottom for the profit of both and the upholdment of the rest of society must keep you on the bottom. That same system, it poisons the mind of the person it tells is better too. It poisons the mind of the oppressor side as much as it does the oppressed. Now, I don't mean have too much sympathy and say, well, they didn't know any better, but the average working class white person, Bernie Sanders sat in the same seat when we talked, and he said at the time of segregation, the poorest paid white person in the nation was Mississippi. And the reason they were willing to accept poor pay is because they go to a different water fountain than a black person. They were so snookered that they were better than somebody. They never understood how badly they were being mistreated by the corporations that had them. So it's important to me that people understand that the move you made didn't just lead to a great sneaker deal, it didn't give you the brain that allowed you to teach for 45 years. It wasn't the luck of finding a great wife. It really was the love of humanity and standing in solidarity with not just one black man, but also with a white man who was on there who was standing in the name of humanity. And I appreciate you because that means that my little nephew JC's here, my son Pony Boy, who's going to see this later, they're going to have a much more advanced perspective at a younger age, and they're going to be able to understand the racisms and the isms to be simply glitches to keep us separated so that we don't fight systems. So thank you for that. Thank you for being 21 years old and that brave. Fred Hampton died at 21 years old. And someone said to me, about me being an admirer of his, well, he was only 21 years old. But you had already said, I studied, I learned, I trained. At one point, the death in America was 45 years old. You had to be whatever you were going to be at 21. So thank you for showing that our young people, the people that are out there organizing now, are of sound mind and capable spirit to do it at that age. You don't have to wait. No grand person has to come out of the sky, or old person singing spirituals has to tell you. But what I really like about this conversation and my first conversations, the first two conversations I've had in this job have been with a 74-year-old man, and a 71-year-old man. It is important that young people skip a generation to dialogue with. I am dialoguing at some point with the fears of my parents. My parents don't want me to have it as bad as they did, so they're teaching me, and I know this because I teach people from a perspective of caution and fear. I've learned that older people don't have a couple shits to give, and they're gonna tell me the truth, and they're gonna get to the truth. You're fat. Move around more, stop eating so much. That's what I've been trying to do. But I want to appreciate your candor, and I want to appreciate your willingness. And I just want to encourage other people to get out and speak and converse with people in your barbershops. How important is it that people from your generation are conversing with people my generation and younger if we are to move humanity forward, and if the Black struggle really turns into truly the human struggle that Malcolm talked about and they killed him because he was talking about humanity, and Martin talked about and they killed him about being for humanity and against this warlike machine and system that has fake wars and calls them Olympics so they can brag and boast and laugh at each other, and then they send boys of the same age to kill one another years later.
Isn't that amazing? 40 years old and you're doing PhD narration. You all right?
I'm just a rapper. I like marijuana, but I got a beautiful wife.
You like working for marijuana, right?
But
That's
thank
two
you.
people.
But it's because old people raised me, and it's because I'm smart enough to get your phone number after this. And thank you for sharing your wisdom is what I'm saying.
Welcome,
I don't know how smart or dumb I am, but I am blessed to have had this conversation with you.
Welcome. Keep on working forward. Proactive.
Yes, sir.
Unity.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, son.
Love. We got to do one fist bump.
No.
Bam. Thank you, sir.